I can't go wrong with that. Big last to be big last to these kids might go to college and have to take the nigger class. Don't tell me you're graduating this year.
Oh, you got my agenda.
Do I?
You're welcome.
I don't even know that agenda.
Yes, I do. I have an extra one. There you go.
Thank you.
It's not a staple, but you got it.
Boy.
All right, we're just about ready.
Oh, we're supposed to sign.
You're a very attentive chief. That's what I like about you.
On the ball.
Okay.
Good job.
I think Mr. Carter.
He sees everywhere, bro.
He's going to get started.
Feeling much better? Just another?
You ready?
I'm feeling much better. Thank you.
Okay. Young man.
Oh yeah, all spit and polish.
Let's talk. Nothing? We'll talk.
You know Coach Carneal? Is he all right kind of fellow?
That's a loaded question.
I sure am. I'm doing good. You all right? Looking forward to seeing you on Friday night. All right?
Yes, sir.
Clayson.
Lacey.
Now that's my granddaughter.
Oh.
That's number 2. She's the president of school body. You got it? Okay. This regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for August the 20th, 2013 will come to order. I'll ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Item 1.2 of your agenda, we have a public hearing relative to 3 different items. First is Ordinance 13-14, which amends Ordinance 13-08 and sets a new property tax rate for fiscal year 2014 that is above the certified tax rate. Then Ordinance 13-15 amends the budget for the fiscal year 2013, and item 3 is the Springfield Police Department's application for a Justice Assistance Grant, which is known as a JAG grant. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with regard to the Ordinance 13-14, the first item on the agenda? All right, we'll move to the second part of that, Ordinance 13-15. This ordinance would amend the annual budget for the fiscal year that just concluded. Is there anyone who wishes to make a statement with regard to that part of the agenda? Now to the third item under 1.2, to authorize the police department to submit an application for a JAG grant. Any comments? Public hearings then are hereby concluded, and we move to the legislative portion of the agenda. 2.1 will be to discuss and possibly take action on Ordinance 13-14 on third and final reading, which sets the new property tax rate for the coming year. Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis.
Sneed.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
No.
Snyder.
Aye.
Passed 6-1.
2.2 is to discuss and possibly take action on ordinance 13-15. This will be a third and final reading. Also, this would amend the fiscal year 2013 annual budget, making for certain shifting of funds between departments. Is there a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis. Mason.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Okay. I will make a comment that these two items, adopting a budget and doing the cleanup ordinance on the 2013 budget, particularly the tax issue and so forth, has been discussed already at three meetings, and public hearing already having been held. So if you think we were moving fast on that, this is about the fourth or fifth time it's been before us. All right, 2.3 is to discuss and possibly take action on ordinance 13-16. This is a first reading, and our city clerk, Connie Watson, will read this ordinance.
Ordinance 13-15, an ordinance amending the physical, excuse me. Ordinance 13-16, an ordinance establishing a new fee for the rental of the Martin Luther King Jr. Park football field. Whereas the cost of the athletic field lighting at the Martin Luther King Jr. Park football field has been reduced, and whereas the cost for the athletic field lighting is included in the football field rental fee, and whereas the Board of Mayor and Aldermen desires to have the rental fee more closely reflect the actual cost for services, and whereas Article 4, Section 13 of the Charter of the City of Springfield, Tennessee requires that fixing of fees and charges be accomplished through legislative action, which must be exercised by ordinance. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. Section 1. The fee for the rental of Martin Luther King Jr. Park football field is hereby reduced from $900 per game to $700 per game. Section 2. All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
Thank you. Is there a motion that this be considered?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion then? Hearing none, I'll ask that the roll be called.
Head.
Yes.
Carneal.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Okay, 2.4 is to discuss and possibly take action on Resolution 13-17. This would authorize the appropriation of funds in the fiscal year 2014's annual budget for the financial aid of nonprofit charitable and nonprofit civic organizations in accordance with Section 6-54-111 of the Tennessee Code annotated. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All right, Mr. Dudding, would you like to, can we list what those are for the public?
Yes, sir. This is an action we take every year. We're required to pass such a resolution under state law. In order to receive funding, they have to meet 5 specific criteria by way of information about their program and their organization. This year, we will pay the usual $16,000 to the Robertson County Chamber of Commerce for economic development purposes. We also pay $12,000 to the Robertson County Historical Society to pay utilities at the museum building. And also we will pay $25,000 to the Robertson County Community Foundation through the electric department to fund annually realizing Robertson's future.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Is there any discussion?
The only
Yes, sir. Mr. Ellis?
25,000 that's listed, you did say that come from electric department, is that correct?
That's correct.
Other questions? Please call the roll.
Ellis.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carnell.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
All right, we move to the next page of your agenda. 2.5 would be to discuss and possibly take action on Resolution 13-18. This authorizes our city attorney to collect a surety bond in the amount of $135,080 for Legacy Subdivision Section 5B for owner Tony Doris Builders and Developers, a limited liability corporation, prior to its expiration date of September 13th of this year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion now?
May
Yes, you may.
I bring Mr. James? Mr. James, what did we cover on that the last time we talked?
This is George James, our Director of Codes. And
We've been holding this bond and renewing it for 7 years. It will expire on September 13th of next month, and this is the last time the board will have to meet on it in order to collect it. I've sent Mr. Doris 2 letters, one by certified mail, one by regular mail, and I haven't heard anything. So I think we'd better go ahead and move ahead. I may hear from him on the letters anyway a little later, but that's what this is all about.
Thank you, Mr. James.
any questions while Mr. James
No,
is
I
at the
just
podium?
want to add, Ms. James can affirm this. We have tried to be patient each time we talk to him, and even gave some good concessions a couple of years or so ago, you know. So we'll try to work with him. So it's not like we're being harsh and coming down. Thank you, Mr. James.
Thank you. Might add for the purpose of the audience, Mr. Hubbard serves on the Planning Zoning Commission, which has considered this. All right, any further discussion on this matter?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a work conflict, so I'll abstain for the record.
Okay, thank you. Get other comments? Please call the roll.
Carnell.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Sneed.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Snyder. Abstain. Ellis.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Pass 6-0 and 1 abstain.
Okay, moving down to the administrative portion of the agenda. 3.1 is the monthly adjustment of retail electric rates of the Springfield Electric Department due to a wholesale fuel cost adjustment by our supplier, Tennessee Valley Authority. Mr. Gardner, what is that adjustment this month? That's good. You're making progress. That was 3 whole percentage points, not 3/10. Am I right? All right. Okay. Is there a motion?
So move.
One of those could count as a second then. All right.
We like that, Mason.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carnell.
Aye.
Sneed. Head.
Yes.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, 3.2 is a similar action on the adjustment of monthly gas rates in Springfield Gas Department. Mr. Hall, you've got good news for us tonight.
It's down right at what you said, it's 0.96.
0.96 down, all right. Is there a motion that that be considered?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Please call the roll.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Carnell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right. 3.3 will be to discuss and possibly take action on an appointment to the beer board for Ward 4. Who is the recommended individual?
Bill Moore.
Okay.
Bill.
Bill Moore.
Bill Moore.
Bill Moore, okay. Mr. Bill Moore has been recommended by Ann Snyder, the alderman for that district, as the replacement for Mr. Randy Williamson, who has been on there for some time and is asked to be replaced. Are you moving that Mr. Moore be appointed?
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Good man.
Mr. Moore, you want to make any statements? You'll say, please, no. I think you're going to be stuck with this in just a minute then. All right. Please vote your preference when your name is called.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
3.4 is to discuss and possibly take action on the RTA's 2013-2014 agreement for the Springfield Joelton Express bus route. There are 2 buses in each direction, taking workers to anybody who wants to ride to Nashville and then return. This is the purpose of this. It has a significant, of course, there's revenue from the riders themselves, then there is a federal subsidy on this matter, and then this is the difference that local governments are asked to supply to fill the gap. The county has appropriated, I believe, their portion as well. So is there a motion this be considered?
So moved.
And a second? Now into discussion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Steve, go ahead.
I've asked the city manager in the past, at the board meeting for some statistics and data of usage for this bus route to justify that expense. I haven't seen anything to that effect to inform us as to as of to this date, to inform us to whether we need to approve this appropriation, which we know will increase to from $20,000 this year to $60,000 next year. I would like to table the motion until the information can be obtained to give us some informed decision.
All right, you're moving to table?
That's right.
All right, is there a second? Is there a second to his?
Second. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's got a third, okay. All right. I don't believe there's any discussion on that. Am I correct, Mr. Balfour? All right, if you would favor the tabling of this motion, please vote aye. If you are opposed to the tabling, vote no.
Ellis.
Aye.
Hubbard.
No.
Hubbard.
I'm favoring to keep the bus.
Well, this, all right, this is
Okay,
tabling.
Not the table.
This is tabling, okay, so that it will not be
I do
acted
not
on
want it.
tonight.
You're voting no.
No.
Okay?
Sneed.
You need to change your vote. Hold just a moment, Mr. Ellis.
No.
Mr. Ellis has voted
You're
no. He
voting no.
changed his vote. Now go to Mr. Hubbard.
Okay. Sneed.
Aye.
Snyder.
No.
Carneal.
No.
Mason.
No.
Head.
Yes.
Failed 2-5.
All right, now on the motion itself to appropriate that $20,771, which is in the proposed budget. Am I correct, Mr.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any further comment on that?
Yes,
sir.
Mr. Mayor. Go
Go-
ahead.
Yes, sir.
No, you go ahead, Mr. Sneed.
Was anybody that voted no to find out the ridership of this, can you inform us, since you voted no, that you don't want to know what the ridership is before you appropriate money to it?
I will respond to that if I can.
You may.
I pulled up to that bus yesterday morning, and it was a full bus. And we get consistent reports that it's a full bus. And we're trying to, this is the thing I want to put with us, we're trying to get in mass transportation since we're in the metro area. And that was appeal of the people who ride the bus, and just to kind of park these cars and stuff and reduce a lot of driving and gasoline use and danger. So since we're trying to launch forward into that, I support it.
Now, Mr. Sneed is correct in that the subsidy for the next year is projected to rise, and there was a story in the to nearly $70,000. There's a story in the Tennessean 2 days running now about this service, what Spring Hill is having to pay, Franklin, others. So, and this has to do with federal funds being cut back on it. However, all we're agreeing to now is the contract for 2013, 2014. And when that other comes up, we will consider it again. Are there other comments?
Yes, sir. May I?
Yes, you may.
I voted not to table this because we're 1 month into the new year, and they've run close to 30, well, not 30 days, but 20 days, whatever it is. And personally, if we'd have had a budget by July 1, this would have probably been in there. So I voted to continue it this year, but I think everybody has to be on notice. And I don't think this board is going to pay their portion, going to pay $60,000 to $70,000 as their portion next year.
And it
Now,
could,
that's just,
excuse me, Mr. Desmond, but just to go with what you're saying, the thing that does trouble us from time to time is that you all, the people who are in this room, many of you are, probably the majority, are city residents, and you're paying city taxes. You're also paying county taxes. So when the county pays their subsidy, you've paid a portion of this as well. Then in addition, you're paying city taxes toward this subsidy. So you get paid, city residents, when we approve this, do pay twice for this subsidy. So somebody who lives half a mile outside of Springfield only pays for it once. So you see the inequities that are there. So that gives us some heartburn when this amount starts getting upwards toward $100,000. But that's something we will consider this next time, just like we've considered it this time, and we'll see how the majority feels. Are there other comments?
But even with the heartburn, I mean,
It's a good program.
It's
It's
a way of
been
the
well
future.
received by everybody that I've
it's a
talked
way
to.
with the future, and sometimes you have to accept the challenge of the growing pain in order to have a service. Okay, it's a way with the future.
Okay. Any other comment before we vote?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Steve?
I wish there was some kind of way that our tax cards, when we get our property tax bills, that it could be broke down. Like, this is going to nearly require a 1 cent property tax increase, or not quite, but it's just short of this year. And next year it would require a 2% or 2 cent tax increase.
2 cents.
Is there some kind of way that we can get our tax cards to break down how?
Well, you
because
couldn't on
it's-
that
it's-
card, you could send a copy of the budget with it or something if you.
Well, I think Metro Nashville has their card broke down a little bit different. It's just not a
That's
sum
right.
of money. It's broke down, gives people an idea. So, I mean, if there was a bus fee, it's a good program by all means, but you need to pay for it and stand on its own merit. Appropriate 1 cent of your property tax to this bus service. I mean, let people know what it's going to.
We can talk about that as we develop that next budget. Now, is any further comment before we vote? Please call the roll.
Head.
no.
Carneal.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Sneed.
No?
Passed 5-2.
All right, now we move to item 3.5. Discuss and possibly take action on the 3 houses on Queen Anne Court that are owned by the city of Springfield. Mr. Nutting, I want you to speak to that first, please.
Okay, Mayor, I just have a handout as we discuss this, and I just wanted to give the board some information about what we actually paid for the houses and the properties. And of course, we had some closing costs that we paid as well, but it's a minimal amount of money, so pass that down. We paid for the Lee House $112,000, for the Batson House at $25,06. We paid $76,000, and for the Batson House at $25,08, we paid $87,500.
All right. Is there a motion that this action be considered? What specific action?
Well, what we need to do is decide how the board wants to dispose of the homes, so that we can go ahead and start
Minimum bid
construction.
or something like a
Well,
minimum bid or what?
I think the state comptroller has recommended a minimum bid, and I think something at least in the $20,000 range. I don't think we should be paying this amount of money for these houses and turn around and giving property owners a deep discount on the backs of the taxpayers of the city of Springfield, so they get 3 new houses.
So if they move these houses, what are the estimated costs to move a house, so we can kind of get a...
Well, I think Mr. Ellis talked to a person who was interested. I think he said he was quoted $10,000 to $12,000 just to move the house. Then, of course, we talked to codes. He's talked to a couple of contractors. A 1,200 square foot house, a foundation for that, just about 3 cinder blocks deep, is about $3,800. And if you add a block, it's going to increase proportionally. It also depends. I mean, that's a perfectly flat foundation. If you've got an irregular area, you might have to, the back wall may be slightly deeper. But I'd say anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 is probably reasonable for a small house.
Plus the cost of moving it, so they'd have maybe $18,000 to $20,000 in it.
I'd say probably less than $20,000 would be fair.
Okay. Do you want to explain why we purchased those in the first place?
Well, we've had a long-standing issue with regard to the sinkhole between on the other side of the railroad track, and actually between Queen Anne Court and Bill Jones Industrial Drive. And the solution that we've come up with is to design a larger detention pond. And to do that, we have purchased 4 houses simply because we're going to need that area to widen the detention pond, and for no other reason. So as soon as the houses can be moved and the foundation's demolished, we can bid the project and have the contractor come in and widen the detention pond. We're going to put some screening up. We'll probably have some pumping facilities also as part of the project. And so we hope that maybe by next summer we'll have this project completed.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hubbard?
I would like to make a motion. Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
I would like to make a motion that we would sell each one of these houses for a price of $15,000 a piece, on the grounds that we could put them back in service and collect taxes from them in a future date.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Steve, go ahead.
It's a little bit different than Mr. Hubbard's. I'd like to place the property, the homes, let these homes out for bid and move them wherever they may be. Mr. Hubbard's was saying collect tax on it. Depends on where they're moved. They may move outside the city. It's not possible, but just put them up for bid.
Do you want a minimum bid, though?
No, I think the figures Mr. Nutting quoted is, I think, about $18,000 for the cost of moving a house. That'd be in a perfect world in lowball figures as well. As a general contractor and familiar with the cost of this stuff, I would estimate that it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 to $35,000 in cost involved after buying the house. And Mr. Balthrop could answer this question. There's a cloud on the deed on the house that's moved, isn't it? It's not a claim title.
On the house itself, there wouldn't.
This is our city attorney, Jim Balthrop.
No, it's not like it's sold at a tax sale or anything. There wouldn't be any issue of title on the house itself. The city actually owns the house free and clear, and the land free and clear for that matter. But
I've never moved a house, but I thought there were some issues with insurance or tax or something to do with title or something.
The people moving the house may have some issues with insurance. That'd be their problem.
So that kind of dampens the value of the property when you do
Well,
it.
we've got about $275,000 invested in the purchase of those 3, by my ballpark figures, right? And with the comptroller having recommended a minimum bid, I don't, in my position as chair, I cannot make a motion, but.
I understand.
let's
I feel
think
the
about
same.
May I ask you this,
way,
Mr.
but
Mayor? Can we put in the $20,000 that the comptroller recommend as the minimum bid?
But he said 25, but now we can do whatever we
I mean-
want to.
I mean,
That
can
was a
we do that?
recommendation, not a requirement. But
But-
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Put a minimum bid.
You can, okay.
I've got a motion on the floor,
Okay,
just to
I'm
let
sorry.
that for
Right
bid.
now, okay, yours is on the floor. Do we have a second on yours now?
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right. Mr. Sneed has recommended that we put these 3 houses out to bid. It's been duly seconded. Are there any,
I have a question for Mr. Sneed.
go
Does
ahead.
your
Mr.
motion include the right of the city to reject any bid?
Mr. Mayor, how fast do you want these houses moved?
Well, I'd like to move pretty quickly so we can accomplish why we purchased them in the first place, but I want to be realistic. I think the cost of moving them will be, I'm no contractor, but I think they'll be higher than that $18,000 or so. But on the other hand, we've got to realize too, as we balance a budget, try to work on that, how much we paid for this, and I'd simply like to recoup as much as we can. Alan Ellis is our Public Works Director, and he's going to speak to that.
What you're saying, Clay, it's probably going to be too late this year for us to do anything. This time we bid it, come back to you, and approvals and everything. I would say recommend a minimum number. It's going to have to come back for y'all approval, and every bid we put in the paper says we have the option of rejecting or not. With the bond, we need a small bond on each one to make sure they clean up everything. Last time we did this, we didn't get anything cleaned up. It was a pretty good mess. But I would like to see some kind of minimum on them. We bid all of them individually or all together. That's another question.
Well, I'll amend my motion to.
I'll let you restate it if you'd like
Well,
to
it's
at this
already been,
time.
what I've said has been second, so if the second of the motion will agree to include
That's
a
Mr.
minimum.
Head.
Mr. Head.
That we can reject,
Ms. Heads want a second.
if we can reject bids, and second agrees that, we'll go with that. Put it out for bid, but we have the right to reject.
All right, that's the way it's worded. Everybody understand that?
Do we have a minimum?
No, but we can reject any and all bids. Now, these are individually, we're going to bid on them individually. All
I
right.
recommend that.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I can go with that. So if it doesn't meet that 25,000, I can say no.
That's right. Call the roll, please.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Carneal,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Head,
Yes.
Ellis,
No.
Mason.
Aye.
Pass 6-1.
All righty. 3.6 is to discuss and possibly take action on scheduling a joint meeting with the Board of the Springfield Housing Authority Board of Directors in regard to the slum clearance program. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Let's try to agree on, I'm not going to put the date of the thing in the thing right now, but let's just agree on the concept. If you approve, if you favor this, vote aye. If you oppose, vote no, and then we'll try to come together a little bit with a date.
Can we have,
Mayor, I met with the Executive Director, Seth Hudson, today. It probably wouldn't be earlier than October. So I told them we generally meet at 7 o'clock in the evening for special meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and asked him to approach his board to see when they would be available. They've got some business that they've got to take care of as far as contracts and some other things for the month of September. So let's plan on, Seth and I maybe coordinating a meeting in October.
since I was a maker of the board, what particulars, last Mr. Nutting, what particulars are we're going to probably discuss?
Well, we appoint the Housing Authority Board, and we never
I'm
meet.
talking about items of slumness, I mean. what
Well,
particular-
of course, our strategy has been to clear out around the public, having the slum areas away from public housing. It's not helping anything. We also want to talk a little bit about any plans to possibly reduce the amount of public housing in facilities that have been depreciated. And we really want to find out what their plans are, what their goals are, and just have a general exchange of ideas.
I think this is neat. I
Yeah,
talked with
it's
Seth
neat.
this afternoon about matters about their ongoing, the remodeling that they're doing, where they're taking the one-bedroom units, whatever, and converting those into larger units. And by so doing, you're cutting down on the total number of housing units, but you are meeting a greater need, and that is moving along nicely. When that's all done, I think we'll wind up with about 364 units of public housing. There has been as many as 420, I believe, at its peak. These units some of these go back to the 1950s. Mr. Ellis is the only one on the board that'll probably remember any of those. I thought I'd get a kickback on that, Mr. Ellis. He is, for the record, he is 2 months and 1 week older than I am. That's the reason I always try to tease him about that. All right, we have a motion and that we agree to meet with the Housing Authority. It's been duly seconded. If you favor this, vote aye. If you oppose, vote no.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Carnell.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder. Pass 7-0.
And there we're privileged to hear an update on the library expansion project, which we have talked about for way too long, and we're looking forward just as much as the library board to this project reaching fruition. And we have a very distinguished gentleman by the name of James T. Marshall who's going to speak to us tonight as a spokesman for the library board. Jimmy, if you'll come forward. Oh, well, that would be fine. You mean I got to listen to a lawyer to get this?
Or Springfield.
We
All the worst things, Mr. Mayor.
Well, a few. We welcome you, Bill.
Just to give the board an update, it's a project that has been long overdue. Currently, we have committed $4.3 million. That includes $500,000 that is held by the Community Foundation. We are at the point where we view construction starting truly in a matter of months. And along those lines, we have submitted a request to the city that the city act as, the city engineer act as the project manager, and also that the city would act then as the agent for construction oversight as well as the disbursement of funds. And what we envision is a relationship almost identical that was utilized to construct Highland Crest College. And it's the project's being built inside the city. We have to meet the city code requirements, and Mr. Brewer has certainly evidenced in his past performance the ability to meet those requirements, and then it only becomes logical then for the city then to handle the money for the disbursement of funds because Mr. Brewer's should know better than anyone else. We anticipate having a final set of drawings, blueprints within the next 30 days. Hopefully at that time Mr. Brewer can look at those, and we would look to start construction as soon as the project manager then would say that we were in a position to do so.
All right, Bill, so you all are asking for the board here to authorize the city to handle this in the same manner that was used on Highland Crest.
Same manner we used on Highland Crest, utilizing the city engineer as the project manager, and then also using the city as the, I guess you would say, the oversight
Fiscal
or payment agent.
All right, does someone like to make the motion that be? Mr. Ellis is making the
Second.
motion, been duly seconded. Now, I'm going to ask Mr. Nutting to give a brief overview of this library project.
Yeah, we have,
From our standpoint.
thank you, Mayor. We have Mr. Goodman here, of course, Mr. Marshall, representatives of the Library Board and the Building Committee. And there's another issue that we really need to talk about because there's a plan to have groundbreaking as early as February. And the county, let me tell you what I've got in this handout I gave you. You've got the minutes of the Building Committee meeting of July 31st. Some of the information I'm going to share with you comes from that. The Library Board meeting of July 31st as well. And of course, they approved, informed the resolution that you have in your packet that Mr. Goodman talked about. Also, you've got a copy that I gave you at the July meeting, a letter from Mayor Bradley stating that he is authorized to release $1 million toward the expansion on or before February 28th, 2014. And then, of course, last night, the county did approve a resolution releasing the money. So, and I also have the tally of, I think it was a unanimous vote, maybe one person voted against it. But if I'm misstating something, please correct me. Now, the funding in gifts and pledges, and I think this includes both $1 million from the city and the county, is $4,385,936.
Correct.
The cash in the bank is $1,165,350. They anticipate in early 2014, including the $1 million from the city and the $1 million from the county, and additional pledges to collect $2,938,668, which would bring a total cash amount in early 2014 of $4,104,000 and $4,104,000 for construction. Now, I think I'm correct in this. All this money will be used to construct the building. We will, once the building is constructed, there will be money raised for furniture, equipment, all the things that have to be done. I think early on, we will be renovating the existing library, and after the expansion is made, I think the occupancy will be on the first floor, and gradually over the years, we will finish out the second floor by adding all the furniture and the things that are needed to do that. So it'll take several years to do that. But right now, just to construct the facility, we're looking at a little over $4 million. That's the budget. Now, the county mayor, of course, is authorized to release $1 million on or before February 2014. But I think reading the resolution, it also puts a qualifier that not before the city of Springfield makes its $1 million contribution. Obviously, all the money has to be in the bank so that we can have a contract, so that we can be the payment agent and the project manager. So we'll take bids on the project before February, and then we'll know what the actual budget is going to be. But I think everybody's pretty confident that a little over $4 million ought to do the actual building at this time. Now, I talked to Mr. Boyer today, and February 17th is really the ideal date for the groundbreaking, but there is also an issue with a possible donor that is going to contribute $200,000 to the project, but their qualification is that groundbreaking begin before the end of calendar year 2013. So a possible fallback position, although we're really not trying to phase this project, the civil engineering from the underground utilities in the parking lot, there's more than enough money to do $200,000 worth of work. It's all in the bank right now with the donations. So if they had to get that to get the other $200,000, there's a game plan right now to be able to do that. I think that's everything. So as you are aware, in our budget, we have in our capital improvement budget, and have had for 5 or 6 years or more, $1 million that will be on loan. The county's using actual cash reserves. We will have to borrow the money through a TML loan or something like that. $1 million isn't very much, so probably don't need to issue a bond, but a TML loan. And of course, it's up to the board to decide when you want to pull the trigger on that, when you want to go ahead and get the loan. So right now, the ideal situation is for this project to have groundbreaking in February.
Okay, that's great. Bill, was there anything else?
No, that's all.
All right, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would add that a little bit of the history of this. This goes back, oh my gosh, we've been actively working on this going back to 2005, 2006. We're trying to get to one step or another. And both the city and the county have already invested $250,000 each in the preparation of the site itself by purchasing the houses that were necessary to have the additional room needed for both parking and the expansion of the facility itself. So when all of this is done and the city votes its million, then both the county and the city will each have contributed about $1.25 million, or just know about it is that, to the project, but that $250,000 apiece is not involved in the construction itself. All right, we've got a motion on the floor and a second that this be acted upon. Now, are there other questions?
I just have a statement.
Mr. Ellis?
If somebody's sitting out there with $200,000 to give on the library, first thing we need to do is need to buy some shovels and have a groundbreaking in December.
I believe we could accommodate that, yeah.
Just get out there and dig a few
I
holes.
think I believe we can do a groundbreaking. And I'm so glad to see the sign out in front, letting the people know that with that barometer, thermometer, or whatever it is, showing where these contributions are rising, because this is a long overdue and much needed project. So I commend everybody who's worked so hard on it and been patient on it as well. All right, what we're voting on is for the city to agree to this process of the city acting as the project manager for this.
And possibly, if the board so desires, to give us some status as far as when you want to borrow the money.
Being a fiscal agent and so forth.
Well, to actually borrow the money.
Actually, okay, well, that's in it as well then, okay?
The
All right.
motion needs some clarity. I was making a motion, I need some clarity on the payment agent and the project manager.
Okay.
Okay, now,
Well, they're just asking that our engineer be in charge of it.
I need to be in charge, but the payment maker, we're going to just jointly and equally contribute money.
Here's how it's.
I'm talking about both government entities.
Well, the county's already done their voting, we just vote on what we do.
Here's how it's going to work. I assume that the donations will be put into an escrow account where we would be the fiscal agent. Those are all the independent contributions. Of course, we'll have our $1 million in the bank, and the county will have their $1 million. We will work it the same way we did the college. The county will pay, when we pay the initial bill, then they will reimburse 50% of our share of the cost. Just like we did with the college.
Well, that's the clarity that I
That
need.
you want,
Okay,
okay.
because I don't want us to add not one penny
No,
more.
it's not gonna be, the seconder agrees to that. That's you, Mr. Ellis. So you're the maker, he was the secretary. Okay. All right, anything further? Please call the roll.
Snyder.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
All right,
Sneed.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Ellis.
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
All right, 3.8 is to discuss and possibly take action on establishing an annual minimum fund balance policy, something that we've talked about for quite some time. Mr. Ellis has asked that this be put on the agenda. Mr. Ellis, do you want to make a statement of that?
Just
about
a
that?
statement.
Okay.
We've talked about this a lot, and each year how the fund balance seems to go down a little bit. We've also talked about making a minimum fund balance, or setting a minimum fund balance. It can be something like $2 million, or it can be 5% of the budget, whichever you need to do. But this body and the body who follows us needs to have a minimum fund balance. And I guess what I would take any comments and then just let the staff come back at our next regular meeting with some recommendations of both a fixed and a percentage. And then we'll vote on it at that time, if it's okay.
Okay. Is there any objection to this?
that's government. That's the way it should be.
All right. Well, we'll expect that from our staff at the next regular meeting. which will be September it's fairly early, I think. 17th, I believe, yes. Okay. All right, now let's move to, there's no vote needed on that then. 3.9 will be to discuss and possibly act on a parade application to hold an alumni event on the square hosted by Leadership Robertson County's class of 2013. The time requested, date and time is September 14th from 2:30 to 7 p.m. the west side of the courthouse square. Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
You're talking about alumni, you're talking about people who've been in the leadership program over the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, or whatever it is,
They graduated from.
Yes.
graduate. How does it drop out?
We have a motion.
Yes.
That kind of threw me for a loop. Okay. If you favored this parade application, vote aye when your name's called. If you oppose, vote no.
Ellis,
Aye.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Sneed,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Carneal,
Aye.
Mason,
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Pass 7-0.
All right, 3.10. This is an interesting topic. Discuss and possibly take action on the role of the city in regard to the future plans of this for the Springfield education system. This Mr. Hubbard's requested this. Mr. Hubbard, would you speak to that, please?
After seeing another failing school year, I've already blown my top, but I just blew my top. I feel that this board, since we are the governing body of the city of Springfield, the protectors of the purse, the protectors of the welfare, the protectors of the vision, I feel that we should make a stance with this new superintendent, the school board, of the directions that we really want it to go. Me personally, I'm tired of failing grades that hampers and hold down the opportunities for our children. Number three, I'm tired of losing prospective families who can enhance the positive growth of our city because they see the failing school systems and they don't want to come in, and other entities in the county which is sort of suggesting that they should move somewhere else. I'm very tired of not being competitive in the greater Nashville area because we have this issue. And then I'm very tired of seeing progress in county school systems and our beautiful children has to suffer. So not only did I want the challenge to the board, but I'm glad to see some Springfield citizens in here. You know, Springfield citizens, you should get upset of paying your taxes and having to go through this. Board, I want you to tell your citizens what you expect from this new superintendent, what you expect from the school board. And I just, you know, I can't say it enough. I can't say it enough. We are just downplaying education, which is the vehicle in growth. And you know, and I just can't understand why we're just selling for that. I see these beautiful kids, and I'm not saying all our kids are failing. Don't get me wrong. But when we have scores that doesn't reflect some of the abilities and stuff, you know, it bothers me. And I do not want you guys to have to go around, understand me, having county kids or other kids saying you're coming from a failing school system. So as your leader, and I'm going to shut up and let the mayor go ahead on and open up the other member, it bothers me. It bothers me. I came to this board to make sure that I would promote the vision and take this city to the top. I am an educator myself. My whole family is educated. And I just cannot settle for, understand me, not seeing the same. If I wasn't Master's Degree Plus, then I would shut up. If my kids wasn't the same way, then I would shut up. You see, and that's the bar that I set for my family, and that's the way I'll come. Because I know where knowledge can take you. And I just left Jackson, Tennessee. And you know, and I had a visit to their school systems. I talked to some elected officials, and you know, people are high on it. Because we want our kids to be competitive. It's a global world. And we don't want to, as leaders, to sit back like it doesn't matter. We love you kids, and so I'm going to shut up and let the rest of them talk.
Mr. Hubbard, I appreciate you putting that on the agenda, and this is something we've talked about over and over again, and in the last, 3 business days, Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, I've talked to a number of businessmen in the community about, who are just concerned about Springfield's future as a whole. A number of different things that concern them, but the primary concern is what is felt as where the county has not kept our schools as competitive as they should be, both within the county and throughout the state. One had only to, I talked with, I was at a meeting at the Board of Education Friday a week ago, pertaining to the preschool program, which Springfield has the majority of that. It's housed at Bransford Elementary. Now, this year at Kreisel, which is one of our 3 elementary schools, and I'm not counting Bransford as a preschool center in that, they now have 13 portables. I have seen 2 additional portables this time added to Springfield Middle, which I think gives them 5. I've seen another one at Cheatham Park put in the parking lot this time. I think there are probably 6 or 7 there. I've lost count of how many are at West Side. I say all that to say I understand there's somewhere around 900 students in portables, and I might need to be corrected on this if there's been a change this year, but other than these that I've noted, the only other portables I'm aware of in the county are at Greenbrier Middle School. There are probably about 3 at least there. But I talked to Dr. Bell, the principal of the middle school. He has 625 students. It's growing. All of our Springfield schools are growing. We still have the situation where kindergartners have to start in one building, not their elementary school they're going into. We're the only city in the county that has to do that, and on and on. But I will say that from what I hear from the new director, who most recently has been the director in Wilson County for 6 years, and the assistant director, who has been a prominent educator in the Sumner County system, both of the systems that they come from have been very productive. They have some demographics that are similar to ours, certainly in Gallatin and Lebanon, for example. I think they'll have a plan, and I think the school board is determined to do something about it, but we can't let this drag on any longer. And as you made the statement, we compete with a lot of areas, but we are in one of the most prominent areas of the country. If you look at the statistical tables, Nashville is up and coming like nothing else. The only other city in the southeast that's ahead of it is Atlanta, which has been number 1 for a long time, but Nashville will be number 2. And this Middle Tennessee area, with the counties surrounding it, is about 2 million, getting close to 1.6 million to 2 million in that area. And we're the county that has the most problem with our education system other than Davidson County. And it's got to end. It can be corrected. And it is the number 1 thing, when we started having to deal with the sewer, it was not really a moratorium, but what we're dealing with to try to bring this infrastructure up to standard and to replace an old system, that is a drawback to us temporarily. But we have borrowed the money and are spending it to correct this on a weekly basis. It'll be corrected. We have 4 years to comply with all of it. Well, we're going to correct it street by street, area by area, so a lot of it will be done in a year or so. But this other thing with schools has got to, it cannot be just talked about anymore. And when you think, I remember last Monday, we had a pretty good storm that morning. Around 9:30 to 9:45, it was dark as night out there. And I thought that day, those 13 portables at Chrysler, and what you have to do as a principal when you've got all that number of students outside. You've got the safety issue as far, there were no tornado warnings or anything like that out, but it was a rainstorm that was immense. I was at McDonald's and you couldn't see across the street to Belk. It was that bad. So this is a safety thing, both from security and from the weather, and it simply is an impractical thing to try to have 13 portables on a classroom campus. That school has been added to twice and now has the 13 portables on top of that, and is not even in the city. It was used as an overflow for city schools back when Mr. Ellis was director of schools. And he is retired in 2000. So you see how far this goes back and how long it's now been neglected. So it's got to be dealt with. Mr. Head, do you have any statements on this? Mr. Steve, Mr. Ellis? Mr. Mason, you haul kids to Chrysler every day, don't you?
Yes, I'm not educated, I'm just a transporter.
Well, you're a good influence on them. Hey,
Mr. Mayor, I know you're going into the schools just like I am here in the city limits, and want to make sure the public understands that we have great teachers in our city schools and we're not criticizing them, but do want the school board to know that we want more resources for our city schools. We feel like we've been ignored for years, and it's time to step up to the plate and fund some of these new resources that other counties are doing around Middle Tennessee, and it's time that we speak up.
thank you for that. I'm going to get to Paul. I want to add too, how many students from Springfield High are here tonight? Now, last year's senior class had something just under $4 million in scholarships. Now, you all juniors and seniors?
Seniors.
Just seniors, okay. You got to top that now, okay? And we're proud of you, and we know this, that unless it's changed this fall, there are about 250 students a day bused into Springfield High from the other high schools to take some of the college-bound courses and the technical courses that you all offer. We know how good Springfield High School is, and we congratulate you on being part of it. We just want the schools that support Springfield High to be able to be strengthened as well, and particularly our elementary schools. So that's and Mr. Nutty, you want to conclude with that?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to inform the board that there has a group of citizens have formed a charter school committee, and the next meeting is Thursday in this room at 6 p.m. So I'm sure if you're interested in possibly pursuing charter schools, it would be a good meeting to attend.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at citizens of Springfield. You pay 1/4 of the taxes. You have 1/4 of the populations, adults, citizens of Springfield. Please get tired of your Robinson County commissioners and school board pushing you around. You're paying your money. You're paying your money. If there ever should be a tea party, the citizens of Springfield should call the tea party. And I would like to explore one thing in this city. I hope we get covered. I would like to see us get our own Board of Education and stop dealing with those guys. I'm finished.
It's legal.
I have no love for them.
All right, 311 is to discuss and possibly take action on a request from CASA of Robertson County for the use of Suite 202 in the Woodard Hall building. You have a memo on that. Paul, do you want to speak to that?
Well, I think I'll let Gina speak to that, but anyway,
You're our property manager.
We've got some small offices that really are not bringing in any revenue because I think we've donated office space. And Gina, I'll let you take it from here.
Well, CASA is currently in 281 square feet, and they have been there since 2004. And the board did approve letting them have that rent-free back then. And we have this new office open up, I guess, last winter, and it's 247 square feet. And they are asking for the use of that for free rent. The executive director is Kathy Williams, and the board chair is Bill Moore, and they're both here, and they can tell you what their plans are, why they need additional space. It's a good organization, there's no doubt about that.
That's court-appointed
special advocates for children.
For children, okay.
And they work with the court system, obviously, and they can tell you more about what they do, but it's a decision that the board needs to approve whether or not it's
Bill or
rent-free.
Kathy, would one of you give us just a brief statement on that? Come to the yes, please.
She's very passionate. Y'all watching them.
Yes, sir. I'm very passionate about what we do. We serve abused and neglected children caught up in the court system. We're appointed by the judge to advocate for these children, to make sure they get out of the system, hopefully unscathed and in safe permanent homes as soon as possible. What our office does is recruit, train, and support these community volunteers. Everybody except the staff in the office are community volunteers. And we are so pleased with Robertson County because right now we have 21 active volunteers. We started a new training class tonight with 6 more that will be sworn in probably about a month. And last year we advocated for 120 kids, but there were 288 in the system. So there's a great need for our service. And we need the extra space. We have 2 paid staff. We have a VISTA, which is a Volunteer in Service to America, also working with us, and we are just sitting on top of each other. We would use this other office as a meeting space for our board, as a training space for our volunteers, as a space for our volunteers to be able to meet with families, to meet with lawyers, to meet with other parties that are involved in the case. And it would just enhance our services so much to have this space.
All right, Kathy, does anyone have a question, Ms. Williams?
Yes, the space that has become vacant, was that previously rented space that on the reports that Gina gives us on the revenue, that would decrease?
Yes, it was rented for $250 a month.
Okay.
Which is $12 a square foot, which is pretty high for that building.
And it's been vacant since when?
Last winter.
Other questions?
I just want to commend you, Ms. Williams. I know where your heart is. Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Ellis?
I'd just like to make a statement. In our budget this year, we have been asked to appropriate roughly $150,000 to fix the roof. And I know we go through.
It's about 129 or something for the roof and the air conditioning units.
Will there ever come a time that we can rent that building and at least pay the upkeep of it?
I've been trying to get you to sell it for a long time.
I make the motion.
Well, we need to make sure of our long-term needs rather than, are you wanting to make that motion now? Okay.
Well, but I would favor, I don't think the city can continue to keep that building up as old as it is, as deteriorated as it is, and it's just a real expense. And I know this is not the first time we put in new windows, did some other things.
We've
and
spent about $150,000 on it, plus probably in the last 10 years.
Okay.
All right, let me make this suggestion. That's not something we're going to settle tonight. That's a very valid point. I think what we're trying to do now is, for the time being, would we agree to allow CASA to continue to use the space they're in, plus the space at the 247 office until further notice?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any questions or comments on that? Mr. Sneed?
Gina, has there been any attempt to solicit this vacancy to get a new tenant?
We did until it was on the agenda. Gosh, it's been on the agenda about 3 different times. I sort of slacked off a little bit trying to rent it until I knew what you all were going to do as far as selling the building. So we have not. But now that that decision has sort of been made through no action, we can definitely start again.
I'd like to.
Excuse me, do you have other available space there?
There's one more space downstairs. It's 536 square feet, I think.
Okay, now, Clay.
We might need to look at soliciting the services of a property management. If we're going to keep it for our future use and we're losing so much money and it's not, vacancies are not being rented, we may need the help of someone to manage this for us.
Well, we have the one space downstairs, the 500 some odd square feet. We've got United Way down there, and let's see, they've got 1,700 square feet. The Tennessee District Attorney's General's office, they rent the space. They pay about $800 a month, and they have 2,300 square feet. And then the Child Advocacy Center has 3,000 square feet. Now, the Child Advocacy Center built out their own space at no cost to the city, and United Way did the same thing. So that's why they have you all agreed to give them the rent-free space. But really, we just have these two, and they're small offices, the one downstairs and this one for 247 square feet. It would be pretty much for a single office person, which is what was in it for all those years.
All right, now, Mr. Ellis, you made the motion, am I correct? That they be allowed to use
They're
this?
allowed to use it until we sell the building or we need that room.
Okay. And was there a second?
And me, I'll second.
Now, Ms. Steve, are you doing an amendment to this, or what?
That'd be hard to amend that. I would.
Well, you see, it has a clause for until we have to have it. I think
Well, I mean,
we've got an
get in there,
issue,
it'll never
some
get
issues
out.
we've got to
We'll
settle
never
with
rent
the
it again.
building. In the meantime, you need to know that you go forward and spread out a little bit there in that building.
Yes, sir.
All right, are there any other comments before we vote? We're voting to allow CASA to use this space.
Mr. Corbett, at least for this fiscal year.
Well, let's leave it like it is right now,
Okay.
James, because we don't know exactly what we're going to do. Likely, that'll be the way it is, but let's leave it the way it is.
month anyway.
Oh, you're a month to month?
So that's not going to be a problem. We would give them ample notice.
Okay.
All right, let's call the roll.
Hubbard,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Carneal,
Aye.
Sneed,
No.
Head,
Yes.
Ellis,
Aye.
Mason.
Aye.
Pass 6-1.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Request granted. All right, we have the consent portion of the agenda. Lady and gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All right, vote your preference.
Mason.
Aye.
Ellis.
Aye.
Sneed.
Aye.
Carneal.
Aye.
Hubbard.
Aye.
Head.
Yes.
Snyder.
Aye.
Pass 7-0.
7-0. Okay, and we have now the city manager's report.
Did we forget the canine dog or is it?
Did I overlook that? Or
No.
you asked me?
Oh,
No, that
that's
was
part
part
of
of
the
was in it. Okay.
We accepted whole consent
Oh, that's the first
with the
one.
canine dog there too.
Thank you, Mayor. The city has received its final reimbursement check from FEMA in the amount of $86,819.37 for the 2010 flood disaster, and the full amount of the reimbursement was placed in the water operating fund because they had a large project of almost $200,000 to replace 3 water mains at stream crossings. Also, city staff conducted a final construction inspection of the new ladies softball field at Springfield High School on Monday, August 19th. The contractor has met all the project specifications, and staff has approved payment to Southeastern Turf in the full amount of $80,375 from the 2013 General Obligation Bond Fund. There is still some work to be done with the project. Some small things need to be done, but that was the major contract for this project. Also, Lowson Associates, our consulting engineering firm for this project, has received approval from TDOT for the city to begin the bid and construction process for the roadscape grant project on Memorial Boulevard. Also, Water Wastewater Department personnel assisted Cleary Construction today with the connection of the pressure reducing valve on Highway 161 in Barren Plains That was one major task that had to be done on this last contract. And also a pre-construction conference with in situ form, the sanitary sewer rehabilitation contractor, was held on Monday of last week. A notice to proceed was issued with a construction start date of August 24th. The time for substantial completion is within 240 days, which is April 22nd of 2014, and the contract is to be completed in 270 days or by May 22nd of 2017. And that's the Circle Drive Drainage Basin, which is our highest priority basin for rehabilitation.
Thank you very much. Are there other comments?
Mr.
Ms.
Mayor,
Snyder?
the concert's in the park.
Schedule, Mr.
This Thursday evening, 7 p.m. Steve Gerald, Daddy-O on the patio, is back in the park. So I would like to see a few board members there, if you don't mind. I'll challenge any of you to a song.
Mr. Mayor.
Everybody go home.
Mr. Mayor.
I've got just a moment, I've got a question here, and then I'll get that.
That would end the program.
Mr. Head doesn't say much, you better listen when he does. Jerome, what did you have?
I just had, I was listening to Paul read that. We got our FEMA money and it went to the water department. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Is that, have they expended that money? What about, I mean, I'm just saying the general fund of public works or streets or?
Most of the damage was done at the wastewater treatment plant, which was covered for the most part through city insurance. We had about $600,000 worth of damage. Much of it covered by insurance because we had flood insurance. And then we had some damage to the greenway. We had some debris cleanup, that sort of thing in the general fund. Those were all small projects. I think our largest small project was approximately $42,000 for the disposal of all the debris that was collected. And then the water department had 3 major stream crossings lost the water mains. And so that was a $197,000 project. That was the one large project that we had, large project being defined as more than $62,500. So all that money was due the water department. Everybody's been paid and put in the proper account.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes, the Springfield High School football team is kind of young this year, so community, let's get behind them, encourage them, understand me, so we can have a winning season. Go Springfield!
Oh, wait.
What's the status of Channel 3?
Questions asked about Channel 3. Reason it's not on the air is because of equipment failure. And I've had more questions about that than any other subject. So it's popular.
Well, we had the bids, they came in last Thursday. The low bid was $21,000, the high bid was $61,000. So we are looking for alternative ways to get this done.
All right, anything further?
Yes, I'd like to see those bids on the agenda next month so we can look at it and make a decision.
Oh, it will be. We'll have something by next
Okay. All right, we stand adjourned.